is the Outlet Forum with my esteemed co-host Chris Camello. What's up, Chris?
Oh, my new favorite number, 45. 45 in the big
Hey,
D.
45 and the big D. Luka Doncic does his thing in Dallas and in return. Heads are rolling in Denver. The T-Wolves are collapsing in Milwaukee. The Knicks can't get a big win against a top team. And the last week of the NBA season is upon us. Great show for you guys tonight. Thank you for tapping in with us. We have to start off first, Chris, with Luka Doncic going absolutely bonkers tonight in Dallas, putting it on Nico's head, Nico Harrison, that is, with 45 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 steals
Mm.
in a huge Laker win. Lakers win a huge game, 112-97, clinch a postseason berth for the first time without the play-in since 2020, I might add. And the Lakers are rolling at this
Yes,
time,
sir.
man. The Lakers are rolling. What did you make of Luca harnessing his emotions with that tribute before going into the game, and how he was able to keep himself together, right? And put up that kind of performance. JJ Redick called him superhuman even after the game. And LeBron played great. And we'll get into all that as well, along with all the other stuff that I just mentioned as well. But Chris, what did you make of tonight's huge win in Dallas, and specifically how Luka responded to being back in his hometown, or the team that drafted him, I should say. It might even really still be his hometown, because he mentioned sleeping in his own bed last night.
Well, I mean, didn't he like buy like a $15 million home or something on like shortly after, or before, I should say, the trade happened? Yeah, we knew this game was going to be emotional. And I'm sure Luka, when he got traded to the Lakers and everything was official, he had this game circled on his list. And I think the Lakers did too. And obviously we're in the final week of the regular season. There's a lot at stake right now, trying to clinch a playoff spot, trying to get home court, trying to get a favorable matchup, trying to stay away from certain matchups in certain parts of the bracket. And when you have all of that going on, and now you're back in a place that you helped put back into a position of prominence within 6.5, 7 years with the organization, Luka Doncic made the Mavericks relevant again. And he did it, following on the heels of another great in Dirk Nowitzki. So they became perennial playoff contenders. And Chaz, I've said this before, 2 of the last 3 years, they were in the finals last year. 2 years before that, they're in the Western Conference Finals. He did a lot for this franchise, for that organization, for the city. Head coach is still there, Jason Kidd. His teammates that he went to finals with last year are all still there. And of course, you met up with a throng of very emotional, appreciative, loyal fans to you. And with all of that, that is not easy to play through. You saw the emotions on his face while they were playing a very touching tribute video. You saw the T-shirts that said "Thank you" in Slovenian. Thank you for everything to Luka that all the fans got as part of a giveaway. And then you go out and you set the tone for the game. 45 points, 31 in the first half. He was putting on a show, and he was giving his ex-teammates the business, and that is not easy to do. To go back and play against your former squad, it's difficult to do. But here's why it's different, Chaz, than any other of the returns. You could talk about Vince Carter going back to Toronto. We just talked offline about LeBron going back to Cleveland in 2011. You could talk about Shaq and his return to the Lakers in Christmas Day of 2004. The reason why it's different is because this was a happy return. This wasn't Luka forcing his way out and making himself look bad and demanding a trade and trashing the organization. This was something that was completely off the radar that nobody saw coming outside of Shams Charania. And I'm sure Shams, when he got that tip, was probably blown away as well. And this was a happy return. And you don't see that too often. So I think that's what made it so bizarre and unique and different and exciting. And it almost made it, I think, a little bit easier for him to go out there and play the way he did. Obviously, Dallas is, they've dealt with a lot this year with the trade, with the injuries. They're going to likely be in the play-in spot. But I just thought this was a tremendous return, a big time performance, probably one of the best return games you'll ever see from any player going to the former city and facing off against their former squad. And it was a big win. It was a clutch win. It was one that got them into the playoff picture. So no playing. They're guaranteed a week off no matter how the next two games shake out. And more than likely, Chaz, I think if things go right the next two games, they're going to be the 3 seed. So that's great. You're going to be on a more favorable side of the bracket, of course, depending on who clinches 6.
Go ahead and throw OKC on that other side of the bracket. Go ahead and throw Denver on the other side of that bracket, potentially. Even go ahead and throw Golden State on the other side of that bracket. Bring on the Rockets. Bring on the Wolves.
The
Bring
Grizzlies.
on the Grizzlies. Those are the 3 teams that the Lakers really should want to play against. Obviously, you don't want to disrespect the basketball gods. You want to take whoever you get and play your hardest and yada, yada, yada. But if things can shake out a certain way, that's why you play the games the way that you do, and you take games serious instead of sitting players. There was a lot of talk, and we'll get into what happened in OKC last night. JT, or I'm on your ass. Next topic. But last night in OKC, the Lakers could have sat everybody, especially after whooping OKC's ass by 27 points on Sunday, right? And to psychologically let them know, hey, it doesn't matter what you guys do, we still gonna get this win. But at the end of the day, JJ Redick decided to play his guys, try and get as many wins as possible, and came up short. So on a back-to-back, you go ahead, you get in, you come into Dallas. Luka slept in his own bed, and LeBron had a great game, 14 points in the fourth quarter, absolutely turned it on, and Luka was just a monster to start. 31 points in the first half, finished with 45. Like, the fact that he was that locked in and doing his thing at the level in which he was able to overcome those emotions, it says a lot. It really does say a lot, because the fact that he was able to muster up that level of focus, it tells me that he's going to be able to do this not only when the lights get brighter in the playoffs, because he's already done it, right? Like, we've seen the shots that he hit in the bubble against the Clippers, the shot that he hit against Rudy Gobert last year when he caught him MF going back down the floor before going to the finals. Like, I love the fact that he's locked in and he's as emotionally vulnerable as he possibly can be, and still can tap into his bag and give you absolute buckets night after night, play after play. Man, Luka Doncic is already an all-time great. And I wasn't of the belief before he came to the Lakers. And that tells me that, like, there are certain things that you don't really recognize until you see a player prepare and perform on a night in and night out basis. I knew he was great. I knew he was all these things, but I didn't think that he was going to be an all-time great in terms of sustained greatness and hardware. Ultimately, like, being able to have championships, he has a real shot for the first time. I didn't think he had a shot last year against Boston. I thought that was lightning in a bottle. I thought that was Dallas playing well. I thought that was OKC not really being experienced in the second round. But the fact that he has this opportunity now with one of the greatest players of all time in LeBron James tells me that he's really going to become an all-time great, because he has a chance year after year after year, especially with the Lakers now, to be able to bring in that hardware and to be able to be on the biggest stage in one of the biggest markets in the biggest cities in America, putting it on in a way that we haven't seen before. So Luka Doncic, man, I really don't even know what else to say about him at this point, man.
And not to mention one of his more efficient performances ever. And you know what, Chaz, let's transition here, because this performance comes on the heels of what turned out to be a kind of a rough loss yesterday. First of all, I agree with you. I'm glad they didn't sit those guys against the, in their second meeting against Oklahoma City in 48 hours. They were coming off perhaps their most impressive win on Sunday, and they matched Oklahoma City tit for tat. Like, it looked like OKC was going to pull away a few times through the first 3 quarters, and the Lakers were right there. They were leading at one point in the fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden, Luka makes a floater, makes a remark toward a taunting fan, taunts the fan back, and then JT Orr, the official who was in the line of sight as Luka was making that remark, thought that the remark was made toward him, meaning the official, And when that wasn't the case, and JT Orr wasted no time tossing Luka from that game. That was his second technical foul, and he was ejected. And Luka was even trying to plead his case. The players are trying to plead their case. Here's the problem, and this is the downside of Luka at times. And I think Laker fans have become more at times. I'm just saying, I understand you're in a heated moment, but you have to really control yourself and watch what you're saying and how you're saying. Yes, the technical was rescinded. Yes, a mistake was made by JT Orr. Absolutely. But you still have to be one step ahead of these guys, knowing your reputation and the fact that you have a tech already in the game, because that game should have come down to the final minutes. Maybe OKC still pulls it out, but once he left the game, Chaez, a 24-4 run. Not all on him. I get it. Missed free throws from Reeves, missed free throws from Vanderbilt, 18 turnovers from the Lakers last night, which turned into 29 points. So even if they would have won the game, that's not a good stat to have against a number one seed and a team that's going to probably get the best overall record this year with the Thunder. But I'm saying you have to be smarter than that, because it's very easy to give away games. Furthermore, to change the momentum of a game because you're running your mouth. So you just have to be one step ahead. That's all I'm saying. And I don't think I'm wrong on that.
You're not wrong. But the issue here isn't Luka. The issue here is JT Orr getting in his feelings for being called a bitch by Luka, which he thought, and he did. He called the fan a bitch. He said, "Fuck you, bitch," after he made a shot. And here's the thing that I don't get. Like, why don't these refs realize that it's an entertainment product? We didn't come to watch you throw players and getting your feelings about how a player is complaining or this or that.
I agree with that for sure.
We came to watch one of the greatest players in the game play against one of the other players in the greatest players in the game in SGA in a great game that was 80-72 at halftime and was 108-107 with 7:40 left to go in the game against the two best teams in the Western Conference, in my opinion. And you toss him because you misheard something and you didn't even call for help with the crew chief or the other official in Tony Brothers that was on the court with you. Look, I get it. Luka got a technical first, and I'll be the first to say that I want him to shut the hell up a bunch of times. A bunch of times. I want him to just play and not say as much, but this is him. I want you to be you, but I want you to be you within the confines of the game that's not going to penalize the team. So I do understand your point, but the bigger point here is a ref that's in his feelings. I'm not poo-pooing your point and saying it doesn't matter, but I'm saying the bigger point here is JT Orr being in his feelings and getting it wrong, so wrong that the league has to come out and publicly rescind a call that you made that caused an outcome of the game to go completely in the opposite direction. So that's the issue that I have. And this would be if Luka was still in Dallas playing a team that had nothing to do with the Lakers. This has nothing to do with the Lakers or rooting interest as a fan or as, a fan of the game or anything like that. I want to see the best players play against the best players and not be ejected for stuff that has nothing to do with the game. If a fan wants to say something to me and I say something back to him, that's between me and the fan. And honestly, it's a code of conduct on it, and you should be protecting the player in terms of what the fan is. You heard what the fan said. If Luka heard it and saying something back, but you're not doing nothing. And apparently this guy has repeatedly been in Luka's ear. This isn't the first time. So they've been at it plenty of times. And I like the point that AK made on 710 today. He said, and I got to give him credit. He said, not only did you do the Lakers a disservice and Luka a disservice, you did that fan a disservice because he would have loved to still go back at Luka. You did SGA and the OKC Thunder a disservice as well because now they don't get credit for winning that game in the fashion that they did. All we can talk about is what we're talking about now, and that's the referee being in his feelings. So that's the problem that I have with it. And if this shit happens in the playoffs, what bothers me is that there's no accountability for the referees. They make bad calls. They take money out of guys' pockets. They make mistakes just like these other guys on the court, meaning players and coaches make mistakes. But players and coaches are held accountable. But these refs hide behind the 2 minute report and the NBA rescinding stuff the day later that makes no kind of impact whatsoever outside of the fact that Luka is at 14 techs instead of 15 techs, so he can afford one more without being suspended for a game before the rest of the season is over. But there's only 2 games left, and it resets when you go to the playoffs. But I say all that to say, Chris, JT or a veteran official,
Yeah.
you cannot do this. And it may not be public, but I really hope that the league got in his ass on this because I was bad.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So
So
no, I can now because I'm having some connection issues over here. I was good. I agree with you on that, and you're right. We are in the entertainment business, and even I remember when Minnesota came to play the Lakers, and Anthony Edwards, remember, got tossed from that game, and there were probably a lot of Laker fans who were saying the same thing. We didn't come to see. I mean, yeah, we want the competitive edge, but at the same point in time, we wanted to see Ant-Man finish that game, not get tossed in the middle of the third quarter. Or like, remember Austin Reeves got tossed in the Charlotte game. We don't want to see players get tossed unless, of course, there's like a massive fight that breaks out or something. Okay, now punishment's got to be put out there in real time. But when it comes to just talking and talking and talking, but these players, I understand they're trying to get a mental edge. They're trying to get whatever edge they can over their opponent as well as on the officials and everything like that, and really force their one step smarter than or at least one step ahead of these officials, because we know there's less tolerance. There's of that stuff that we didn't see in recent years when you talk about the Crawford brothers or Steve Javie or everything like that. And by the way, even those guys had itchy trigger fingers when it came to tossing guys. I remember Joe Crawford, the late great Joey Crawford, threw out Tim Duncan, who was laughing on the bench. Tim Duncan wasn't even in the game, and Duncan is really he's not really an argumentative guy. He's one of the more quiet superstars in the game, and he got tossed. So my point is, I agree with you. It's never right for the game. I think what pisses people off is that 2 minute report because, okay, the technical is rescinded, but that doesn't help what happened last night. And the thing about it with the Lakers is what we've seen with 3 games in 4 nights, Chaz, we've seen the best of, and we've seen the stuff that I think still scares fans. The turnover, the lackluster defense, bad rebounding at times, lulls. But the fact is, against those 2 games in KC, and I tweeted this as soon as they lost, I said, if I'm the Lakers, I still get from the Thunder saying, we beat their asses in 1 game, and in the other game, we held our tit for tat. Every time they hit us with an offensive blitzkrieg, we answered one right back. And had Luka not gotten ejected, who knows? That stretch, and they're going to need more clutch plays in order to beat us. So I think the Lakers kind of feel a little bit better about facing the Thunder down the road, whether it be in the conference finals or whatnot. So, but yes, it was a rough night. It was a rough finish, but a good rebound tonight. And now you've got your playoff spot clinched. Houston's going to probably rest their guys Friday night like they're doing tonight against the Clippers. And more than likely, I think that's where they're going to finish as the 3 seed, and you'll have home court for the first round. And if you handle your business, maybe a more favorable matchup in the second round. But who knows?
Maybe we'll see how the cookie crumbles for the Lakers and the rest of the Western Conference. Speaking of the Western Conference, we got to talk about the Denver Nuggets because Josh Kroenke, president and son of owner Stan Kroenke, has fired Michael Malone as well as Calvin Booth of GM of the Denver Nuggets, and there's some details starting to trickle out in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Calvin Booth was let go because he didn't have a year left, he only had this year left on his contract and not being re-up. The word Cold War is being thrown around when reporters are talking about what was happening in Denver. But let's talk about Mike Malone first before we get to Calvin Booth. But Mike Malone being out in Denver, 3 games left in the season before you go into the playoffs. You're essentially tied between fourth and seventh. I think you're based on how Denver's playing. If they win tonight against the Kings, they'll probably stay in the 4 or 5 slot, depending on the tiebreakers and everything like that. But the timing of it was shocking and surprising for me more than Michael Malone actually being fired, because to me,
Yeah.
Malone has had this coming for quite some time. And the reason why that is because he is one of the few coaches, probably the only coach that I know that talks shit publicly as much as he does, especially about the Lakers. So personally, I'm gonna be very honest. I laughed my ass off for about a full hour when I found out that Mike Malone was fired from Denver. And I said, take that L with you on the way out. We don't forget shit as Laker fans. So I just wanted to say that publicly because that is genuinely how I feel. And I don't even know the guy, but for a guy to talk as much shit as he does, not only about other teams, but his own players, the way that he does, it was going to come to this at some point. So, not surprised. The only surprising part is the timing of it. Chris, what do you make of Mike Malone being fired and out in Denver? And yes, I call him Mike, not Michael, like he wants to be as well.
Yes, let's kick the man while he's down. This was music to Laker fans' ears because Laker fans remembered what he had said about them after they had swept the Lakers out of the conference finals in 2023, and what he had said during the parade and stuff. But however, this is what I always say about that. I'm going to respond to that first. Victor goes to spoils, man. You don't often hear that from a coach about a team and everything. It's usually player on player and whatnot. But I remembered the same thing, feeling the same with the LA Lakers. I'm sorry, the LA Dodgers and the Padres. Remember all the smack talk from Jurickson Profar and Manny Machado and the back and forth and just the what seemed to be rude, like even Fernando Tatis and all the nonsense we had been hearing from the Padres players and everything. However, and I said the same thing because I'm getting text messages, I can't stand the Padres, this and that. I'm like, they're beating the Dodgers' ass. So Dodgers can't say anything right now. They may not like it. You may not like it. But sometimes this is what comes along with it. Malone was a champion in 23. So were the Denver Nuggets. That earns them the right to talk some smack. That's just what it is. Like I said, as a Laker fan, Chaez, I agree with you. But this is what it comes down to. The fact of the matter was this guy had spent nearly 10 years with the Denver Nuggets, the winningest coach in franchise history, the only coach, I think, to lead them to an NBA championship, and I think only 2 coaches in the history of that franchise to even go to a conference finals. So he had a lot of great things under his belt during that time. Clearly, there were some issues even before the season started where it felt like he was in the hot seat, that if Denver didn't have at least a deep run into the finals, he may be replaced, but I still thought they were going to wait until season's end, and I mean postseason end, to make that decision. This is the second coach fired with just a week left, or in this case, days left in the regular season that we see. We were talking about Taylor Jenkins a couple of weeks ago getting fired by the Memphis Grizzlies, another guy that had accomplished a lot in a short time with Memphis, and now we're seeing literally a championship head coach get canned 3 days before the regular season, and that's just something you just don't see. Not to mention Calvin Booth, the general manager, was also fired. He was the GM during that championship year in 23. Clearly, they felt, why wait? Why wait? And I know you mentioned that too about Taylor Jenkins, and I suppose you could apply that same sort of mentality in this case. If you know we don't want this guy moving forward, what good is it keeping him even with the postseason right around the corner? My issue with this is, what are you hoping to accomplish by firing him? I think he's earned the right to at least finish this out, whether it leads to a championship or not. Finish the season out, let him go out with some sort of dignity because he's earned that, and go through a proper vetting of a new head coach next year. And in this case, also a new general manager. But I think there were some creative differences as well. Malone didn't like playing young players. Calvin Booth wanted Peyton Watson, Christian Brown, Jordan Strother to play a more substantial role on the team, which is why they let KCP walk, which is why they got rid of Bruce Brown and Jeff Green and
Crazy.
some of those guys. So my point
Gave
being
Zeke
is,
Najee all that money, doesn't play.
right, yeah, exactly. So Booth was trying to force Malone into start using these young guys, which is not a bad idea. You need youth. I get it. But, and I was even saying this for a while, why isn't Booth going after veterans on, veteran players on cheap contracts? Why, with the exception of Russell Westbrook. So clearly that was his philosophy. Malone did not appreciate that. They butted heads. And in the end, there was a tension there, I think, trickled down to the locker room. The voice started getting grating onto the players. And this is why this team has had kind of an up and down year, compounded with all of these injuries. In the end, I think Malone did a hell of a job in Denver. I think he's going to get another head coaching position at some
Of
point.
course he will. He's a
And
champion.
yeah, he's a champion and a solid head coach, the son of a head coach. But you're right. That mentality, that holding players accountable, I appreciate that. I really do, because especially in this era of talented but sometimes soft mentally players with a soft mentality. But you have to know your audience too, and give just like you want an opportunity to defend your title and defend and make a deep run. Those players deserve that opportunity as well. And it kind of felt like, going to your point, he was pushing them a little too hard in that direction, to the point where they were shutting him out. And that's
You
never a
just,
good sign.
I want to speak to something that you said, like, oh, he earned the right to be able to defend. No, he didn't.
Yeah, I think he did. But okay.
No, he didn't. Because here's why, in my opinion. This is just my personal opinion. This reeks of something happening behind the scenes that we don't know about.
Yeah. I
This
kind of just
reeks of
alluded to that.
this reeks of. I'm gonna take a little step further. This reeks of Mike Malone being overly confident and overly boisterous in talking even more shit to his boss's boss, and trying to call Josh Kroenke's bluff at some point throughout the year or recently. And Josh said, "Let me show you what it's really about," and got the blessing from Stan, his father, and got both of them out of there, because clearly it wasn't working with Calvin Booth and Michael Malone playing, coaching and managing together a team, a championship team in the Denver Nuggets, not the reigning champions, but a championship team who won it a few years ago. So I think this speaks to a level of something that's deeper and that's more hostile than we may even believe it to be. I believe it to be like that because here's why. Like, it's a statement saying screw you, pretty much. Like, oh, you think that you have a one up? I'll fire you, so you don't even get the chance to defend or get in this playoff run, because you think that you're so hot shit that you can talk to me the way that you are right now and treating Calvin the way he is right now. Calvin
Mm-hmm.
wasn't fired, right? Like, yes, he's let go, but the way that they're putting it is like, oh, we just didn't renew his contract and we decided to let him go early, right? The thing with Mike Bowen, this is just my personal opinion based on how it's being portrayed. I think that the Cronkies, or specifically Josh Kroenke, did it like this, same way like we talked about with LeBron and Stephen A. Sometimes people do things a certain way to send a message, even more so than the message that they're actually sending in that moment. Like, yes, LeBron is telling Stephen A, don't F with my kid, but I'm doing it right here in the middle of the third quarter right now to let you know that you're not even going to say anything back to me in front of all these people, in front of all these cameras. Same thing in this position with Josh Kroenke. You're not even going to get a chance.
Interesting.
You're not even going to get a chance to do this playoff run and look good and win some games with Jokic, and then have everybody clamoring about keeping you, or hey, the Nuggets might be good and going on. Nope, out of here. So I think it speaks to something that's even deeper and more hostile than it's being led on to be. And that's just my own personal opinion about it. And it makes sense because of Mike Malone's temper and the way he runs hot and the way that he has talked shit to his own players and other players. And last thing I'll say as well, he's a coach,
Yeah.
Chris. He's a coach. Players can talk shit because they actually play the game. Coaches don't talk shit about other teams and other players because they're not actually on the court making shots or playing any defense. So I vehemently disagree. I have never heard another coach speak about another team and specific players, even if they win the way that he has. So that's the reason why I took issue with him then and have no qualms about him being fired, especially the way he was fired yesterday. Floor is
Yeah.
yours.
No, that's all fair points, and I agree. There could be something else deeper. I mean, all we could do is read the tea leaves now. I still think this goes back to how the season started and the fact that he was probably on some borrowed time at that point. Like, we're going to give this guy the year, but we're really going to reassess. And I just think the 4-game losing streak at the wrong time of the season. Yes, Jamal Murray's been out, but that double overtime loss, the 60-point triple-double from Nikola Jokic, that really, I think, was sort of the beginning of the end for them. And even that game where they beat the Lakers had no one playing, and they almost went into Ball Arena and beat them. So clearly there was something going on with Malone and Booth, but also that was now trickling down to Malone and the players. And I think that became a bigger issue. Just like with Darvin Ham last year in the Lakers. Clearly, there was bad body language when it surrounded Ham. And even though the Lakers still ended up salvaging their season, they got into the play-in, eventually into the playoffs and whatnot. Ironically enough, losing to Denver, there was still something there where it's like, yeah, we shouldn't be firing a coach who just got into the conference finals, but it's not going to get better at this point. But even the Lakers let the season end before firing Darvin Ham. But you might be right. And the Cronkies, Josh especially, I think this is his baby, the Denver Nuggets. He now needs to reassess because they have now lost 2 executives in a span of 4 years. They lost Tim Conley, who is now, I believe, in Minnesota. I don't know if he's still there. And they also lost
Put together the team that beat him last year.
Calvin Booth. And they're going to need to look for a new. Yeah, so they're going to need to reassess and back to the drawing board. Bob Myers is out there, or they could maybe find another internal candidate. But at this point, they may need to get somebody from the outside that does not have the stink of the old regime on him. And I think Bob Myers could be that guy. But best of luck to David Adelman, son of the great Hall of Fame coach Rick Adelman. Not a championship coach, but a Hall of Famer. And, he's going to now be, finish the year on an interim basis. And we'll see if the team responds well with him or if they're just going to be, a mercy kill early in the playoffs.
If I'm Josh Kroenke, I give a blank check to Bob Myers and say, do whatever you think it takes, like you did with the Warriors.
Yeah.
That's who I go after, and that's probably the only person I go after because that was the first thing.
Unless you think you could lure, Chaz, unless you think you could lure Kobe Altman out of Cleveland.
Bob Myers would be my pick even more over than him personally.
Sure. Yeah.
That's just me.
Yeah.
I said
no,
that.
I wanted Bob as the Laker GM, bro. I wanted Bob as the Laker GM. I love Bob Myers. Southern California guy, national champion, 95 UCLA Bruins.
I thought about that too, but I actually like I've always liked Pelinka. Always liked Pelinka. And Pelinka is going to be here to stay, especially after pulling off what he did with Luka Doncic. I know I said that we're going to spend literally 30 seconds on this because I don't even think that the team. I don't even think that the T-Wolves are even worth the discussion after blowing a 24-point lead at this point in the season to try and stay out of the play-in. But this is what happens when you make a terrible trade and trading Karl Anthony Towns for Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo, and you've been struggling all year, even though you won 5 in a row going into this game. It doesn't matter because you blow a big lead in a big spot against a team who's also been struggling all year without one of their star players in Damian Lillard, and they cost me money as well. So I don't even really want to talk about the T-Wolves. I'll go ahead and give you the floor, Chris. What did you make of this epic collapse with being up 24 points? They were up 94-70 with 10:03 left in the fourth quarter and lost, not by 1 or 2, by 8, and completely crumbled in the fourth quarter.
If anyone knows about this, it's the Laker fans. I mean, up 5 in Chicago with 12 seconds left. I hate to bring up a bad memory there, Chaz, a few weeks back, but I'm just saying, in today's NBA with the 3-point shooting, I definitely hit a nerve there. I know, because we texted about this too today. Yeah, it was definitely an epic collapse. I was watching the highlights yesterday and I was like, I just could not believe that, because like you said, the Wolves have really put together a really strong second half. They, Julius Randle, say what you will about him, he's at least found a niche, and the team itself has started to play some good ball over the last several weeks, to the point where they could potentially be, clinch a spot in this top 6. And who knows, maybe even play the Lakers in the first round, assuming the Lakers hold on to 3. Yeah, you can't lose games like that. You're 24 points with 10 minutes to go. You've got to find a way to win that game. But shout out to Milwaukee. No Dame Lillard. They just got Bobby Portis back. Giannis he could see the finish line at this point. He wants to secure home court for the first round. He would not be denied. But yes, what we saw about the Wolves, I think, reinforces the fact that they're not really going to go that far this year. We could potentially see a first-round knockout from them, but I think the safer bet would be that they get eliminated in the first round, and that there's still some things that they need to work on in order to get to that next level. And yesterday's debacle against the Wolves, which, by the way, was in Minnesota, correct? That wasn't in Milwaukee.
No,
That was at home.
That
happened at the Target Center. Inexcusable. Inexcusable.
It was on the road in Milwaukee. So it was not in Minnesota.
It was in Milwaukee. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes. Well, still inexcusable. That cannot happen.
It could be on Mars. It doesn't matter where it is. Exactly. Yeah.
No, of course. It can't happen anywhere, home or away or whatnot. Yes, you've got to find a way to win that game, especially in your case. I mean, in Milwaukee, like I said, they're not exactly playing for nothing. They're trying to play for home
into
court.
The 5 seed.
But if you're right, but I'm just saying, like, they were, I thought there was still a chance that they would, move up to 4. But yeah, maybe that doesn't happen. I think we've all been focusing on the West, and that's why these wins are so crucial at this point. I was even thinking about it yesterday, Chaz, about the Lakers losing to Charlotte, losing in Utah, losing that fourth quarter to San Antonio, the Chicago game, even the Orlando game. You let certain games that you should have won get away from you. And then you think about, well, why are we in this spot? Because you messed around in December, you messed around in January, you messed around in February, and you didn't beat the teams you were supposed to beat. In Minnesota's case, no excuses. And it reinforces that this team is still immature and still has a ways to go if they're going to be a serious contender in the Western Conference for years to come.
Messed around and found out. The team that's right above Milwaukee had an epic loss as well, even though they played much better. In the New York Knicks playing the Boston Celtics, Jason Tatum with an absolute dog of a step back. I don't even know what to call it. An absolute dog of a step back to go ahead and tie the game at 107 to force OT, and Kristaps Porzingis just draining threes to be able to put that game away for Boston. The Knicks now are 0-9 against the top teams in the NBA, like the Cavaliers and the OKC Thunder, and now the Boston Celtics. The question I have for you really quick, Chris, is are the New York Knicks a contender? Like, are they one of the teams that could possibly hoist the NBA championship? I'll go ahead and just answer my own question. No is my answer personally. What do you think?
I agree with you. They haven't beaten anyone good this year. That's the problem. You're right. They played well against Boston, but go back to when they played Cleveland. Cleveland mopped the floors with them a few different times this year. Cleveland has owned them. I see the Knicks potentially, if Knicks have to play Detroit in that first round, would not shock me if the Pistons, cause an upset in that 3-6 matchup. Would not shock me. New York is this year's Cleveland. Remember Cleveland? I'm sorry. New York is this year's, what the Cavs did last year. Remember, the Cavs were like a 4-5 seed. They beat Orlando in a 7-game series, and then they got the floors mopped with them in the second round. That's what I think is going to happen with the New York Knicks. I like Jalen Brunson. I like the team as it's set up. Josh Hart, big fan of him. Cats had a really good season. Anunoby, Bridges, Tibbs is, sounds like ogre out there. A grizzled, another old school grizzled coach. But I just don't see New York going that far. I think they'll put together an exciting series, probably winning 7 games in the first round against Detroit. But I don't see them going much further than that. I think they're pretenders.
Definitely a pretender. And we don't talk about pretenders that much on this show. So we'll go ahead and just slide into the last topic of the night. One point that I want to make really quick, Chris, just going back to the
Mhm.
OKC. Do you remember that year that
Yeah,
the Atlanta Hawks won 60 plus games with Millsap and Jeff Teague and all those guys that they
yeah.
had on that Atlanta team? I can't remember
ISO
the
Joe.
name.
Yeah, ISO
ISO
Joe,
Joe.
Joe
I mean,
Johnson.
they were just like,
Al
man, Al
Horford, yeah.
They were just like on fire, right? Like it's like they couldn't lose.
Damari
And
Carroll,
then
I think. Yeah,
Damari,
Damari Carroll.
yeah, and then a Cavs team that has just been limping all year, injury riddled. Kevin Love out, Kyrie Irving in and out of the lineup, comes into Atlanta in the second round and absolutely mollywops them. And we never hear about that team ever again. Now, I don't think that we're going to not hear about OKC ever again, but I think this year's OKC is that year's Atlanta Hawks. The OKC hasn't been there yet.
Yeah.
The only difference is
Bold
that they have
claims.
a strong. The only difference is that they have a very strong player in Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, who hasn't been out of the second round either. So that's what I
I
think
also
personally. I know we don't have a topic on it, but I just want to make that quick point because that's something that I've been thinking about ever since the Lakers went in and did what they did to them on Sunday,
yeah,
and what
okay,
Cleveland
here's
did to them earlier in the season. Sorry.
right. No. It's a good analogy. And I think what a lot, and this is why for a long time people were saying nobody fears Cleveland, nobody fears Oklahoma City. The difference with these teams is they've continued to beat up on everybody. That's the thing. So yeah, the Lakers, they got him the other night. I think OKC was kind of maybe caught napping a little bit. I think they're looking ahead. And I seriously doubt how much urgency they're putting into some of these games because they've got number one sewed up. Now, granted, they're playing for home court throughout, but is that enough team like the Lakers, right? Who are trying to see. I'm just questioning that a little bit. I know you got, you don't like what I just said on that. But they did play with more urgency yesterday on Tuesday night, and you saw that they were actually able to put together a much better game. It was very competitive, and they were able to pull away late. Here's the problem with those Hawks teams is that you never got the sense from them, even when they were winning 60 games. Atlanta had this thing about them where you just felt like they weren't going to beat a prime LeBron. You just never really got that sense. I don't have that same sense about Oklahoma City because to me, Shea Gilgeous is more of a superstar than any of those other guys that played for the Hawks. That's the difference. And J Dub is a true number two. Chet's playing really well. They got a better assortment of role players. OKC is a very tough place to win at. It's a very loud arena over there at Paycom Center, whatever the hell it's called now. So yeah, I hear you. I hear you, but I don't think it's there. I don't think it's there. It's a good thought, but I can't quite get on that page.
That's fine, and wait till it happens because OKC has to win 8 games to get to the conference finals, just like anybody else in the
Sure.
playoffs as well.
Yeah.
So just think about this as the playoffs are about to start and everything like that. Like you don't know what you know until you do it and go through it. And for me, there's so many like Kawhi is healthy, Luca, LeBron, uh,
Mhm. Yeah.
I I mean even the Rockets are playing well who just beat OKC. And it's not like they're like the only thing I disagree with you on is like when you're saying, oh, but like how much urgency are they playing with? They are playing with as much urgency as possible because you don't want to go into the playoffs not playing well. You want to go into the playoffs winning some games and not getting whooped belt to ass by 27, 30 points in your own building. The OKC Thunder did everything they could to win that game last night against the Los Angeles Lakers, and it was JT Orr who took that game and said, "Nah, you guys go ahead and have it." Like
I'm not
they
talking about
were
last night's game.
down.
The
No,
urgency was
I
missing
know.
from Sunday. Yeah. Just saying.
I don't think that they didn't have urgency. They played everybody. They just got
No,
their
they did.
ass whooped. Same
Right.
way that they
And
did against Houston
all right.
3 days before
Yeah.
that. So
Mhm.
that's just my opinion on it. I know we pulling a little ad lib by talking about it the way that we did. It wasn't a planned topic, but I just wanted to throw that out there because going into the playoffs,
Yeah.
it's
Wasn't
not that
a,
I don't believe in OKC, but I do think that they can be beat. They're not the Celtics. Like I don't think anybody in the East is beating the Celtics, including Cleveland, barring injury. And there is an injury with Jalen Brown. His knee's not right. So that might be the chink in the armor for the Celtics if they ever run into Cleveland, especially late in the playoffs after they've gone through 2 rounds and if Cleveland's still healthy. So we'll
this
see.
is the side effects of being a great regular season team, but being young and not really proving that you could do it at the playoff level. That's why people feel like OKC and Cleveland can be had, because none of those guys on any of these teams have a history of doing it, with the exception of Alex Caruso. And Caruso's a role player. You know what I mean? So he's not a star player leading that team to a championship. So there you have it. So I think that's why you feel the way you feel. It's why a lot of people feel the way they feel. I'm sure even Denver, with all the bullshit going on, probably feel if we get Jamal Murray, that blue arrow, back in our lineup, we could probably take down OKC. Yeah, who cares about Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren? Jokic will eat them up like it's barbecue chicken. Come on. Like that's
I
just what
just
it is. So I'm sure even Denver and like, who was it? Somebody just said that, don't be surprised if Minnesota could take out OKC. So I'm not saying you're wrong on that. I'm saying, why do you feel that? It's because of not proving into the postseason and being relatively young. That's why. It's because when you're young, you don't have the know-how and you don't have the proven pedigree that we could get it done at the next level until you do.
same reason I'm so happy that the Houston Rockets are locked into the 2 seed.
Yeah,
Can't
because you
wait.
feel they could get had.
Absolutely. Last topic before we get on out of here, Chris. I need a bold prediction. I need something before we go into that. And one quick point as well. I wonder if Mike Malone being out in Denver is suddenly going to make Jamal Murray's hamstring feel better for next week. We'll see. I don't know. What do you make of the last week of the season? Give me one bold prediction that you think is going to happen as we close out the NBA regular season and go into the playing games.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough right now to see that bold prediction stuff. But I do have one. The Chicago Bulls are going to beat the Miami Heat in the play-in game, and they're gonna square off against the loser of 7-8, which I believe is going to be Orlando and Atlanta, and they're going to try to fight for that 8 seed. And I think they're going to find a way to get into that 8 seed. So that's one of my predictions. Super bold, but kind of is. Indiana knocks out Milwaukee in the first round again.
Oh yeah, Milwaukee can defend the Pacers, especially if they're healthy. Siakam is a great
And Dame.
counter to Giannis, and Dame being out the way that he is,
Yeah. Dame
unfortunately,
being out.
is very very interesting. Here's mine, Chris.
Hit me
The
with it.
Sacramento the Sacramento Kings
Mm.
win 2 games, one at home and one on the road. They beat Dallas at home and they beat Memphis because I think the Timberwolves are going to beat Memphis and get that 7 seed in the play-in. It depending on how it shakes out at the end of the season, but I do think Memphis and Minnesota will be in the play-in. I think Golden State gets in. I think Denver somehow still gets in. Clippers are playing great. Lakers and Rockets already clinched. Obviously, last a few games ago and tonight for the Lakers. I got the Kings winning 2 games to make
Mm-hmm.
the actual playoffs as an 8 seed. That's my one bold prediction going into the last week of the season. So we'll see if it happens.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good one. Sack. And by the way, history is not on Anthony Davis's side. He cannot defend Domantas Sabonis. So he is going to have his hands full in that. Likely he's going to be played up in Sacramento. And we saw, I mean, I like Dallas, but if Najee Marshall is your go-to guy offensively, That's a problem right there. That is, I think at this point, Dallas is trying really hard to put lightning in a bottle. Wouldn't shock me if they go and beat them. And Sac is beatable. They're losing right now with 6 minutes to go to the Denver Nuggets. But yeah, I think Sacramento, that game in the second half where Levine and DeRozan went off in Detroit, leads me to think this team, if they could find a way to get those two guys to be equally dominant, along with whatever they get from Sabonis and Murray and some of those other guys up in Sac, they're going to be a tough out. And so, yeah, I think they're going to win the 2 games in the play-in tournament. And like, I agree with you on that.
Definitely. Let's go.
Yeah,
Well, let's see
I
if I'm
agree.
right. Phoenix is absolutely atrocious. They were up by double digits at home on OKC. They are now down by 17 with 3 minutes left to go, and they are officially about to be ousted from the playoffs, or even the play-in for that matter, with no KD. Bradley Beal putting up 1 point in a game that he's playing 30 minutes in earlier this week. He's playing better
Awful.
tonight, but it's too late. And the Suns, for some reason, can't score in Boston, costing me money by a hook, and then decide to take the over last night by a hook when they couldn't even buy a basket in for 3 quarters and somehow get hot at the end of the game and take away a great win for me. So I say all that to say, man, it feels good not to have any money on any games and no bad beats tonight. And my Lakers winning and Luca going off for 45. Fire Nico. Fire
Here,
Nico.
Nico.
We've never seen that. We've never seen
Yeah,
that. We're never gonna see it again. The fact that you have an opposing player coming in, dropping a 40 burger on the opposing team's head on the road and getting cheers.
I was
Never
just going
gonna
to
see.
say getting cheered. No, it was a happy return. It was like a home game. If you had
It
your
was
eyes
like
closed
a
last night, if you had your eyes closed tonight watching that Lakers Mavs game, you would have thought, hey, are the Lakers playing at Crypto? Yeah, they are.
yeah.
Crypto, Texas. Actually, that's the name of the town. Crypto Arena in
Crazy.
Dallas. It's their second home. Yeah, no, a lot of good stuff happening. By the way, quick shout out to the 2 national champions that were crowned on Sunday and Monday. The UConn women's basketball team got their 12th championship for Gino Auriemma. I mean, Paige Beckers was outstanding. Yeah, no, she was great. She's off to the WNBA draft. I think she just did Kimmel too. She had the trophy. So shout out to Gino, shout out to Paige and the entire Huskies nation, and shout out of nowhere, Florida, the Gators, Gator Nation, man, down 12 in the second half to the University of Houston. I thought Kelvin Sampson had it, Chaz. I thought he had it, and in comes Florida late. Clayton, Richard, all those guys made big shots, big plays. The defense was fantastic, and they took that ring right off of Sampson and the Cougars' hands, man. Hey, if it was like Olajuwon, it was 5 slamma jamma back in the 80s all over again. Shout out to Todd Golden, youngest coach to win a national championship at 39 years old since Jimmy Valvano did it with the NC State Wolfpack. What was that, 1983? He did that. He was 37.
Running around looking for somebody to hug. That was great.
Yeah, exactly. The great Jimmy V. Hey, don't give up. Don't ever give up. The great Jim Valvano, RIP. So just wanted to give a couple of those shout outs to our college champions for both women and men's basketball.
Appreciate you guys tapping in with us on another great show with the outlet forum. Buckle up because the playoffs are about to be fire. 40 games in 40 nights. I can't wait. You guys know where to be. Follow us on Instagram, on X, on Facebook at Chaz Pearson. Chris, where can they follow you, my man?
I got it right here at Chris _Camello on Twitter /X, CCamello1 on Instagram, and follow us on the outlet forum on IG, on X, on YouTube. If you missed the shows live, don't worry about it. You can always check it out on YouTube. We always drop the link the next day. So Chaz, great stuff. Regular season coming to a close, but the playoffs for the next couple of months are going to be wild. And we're going to throw in a little bit of baseball, little NFL off season. The draft's coming up next later on this month. So we're going to start to broaden our horizons a little bit more.
Appreciate you guys tapping in with us. See you guys next week. Peace.